Have you ever been so have you ever been so worried that you might fail at something that you simply didn't go for it? Welcome everyone to today's video, where we're going to be looking at the fear of failure, what failure is, how it might affect us, and what we can do to overcome the fear of failure. Everyone experiences the fear of failure at some point in their life, especially when attempting something challenging or something a little bit outside their comfort zone. It's perfectly normal to be concerned that you might fail, to be worried that something might go wrong and the results you want might not be the results you get, especially when the stakes are high. But fear of failure can go beyond just worrying to actually driving our behavior and stopping us from going after our goals or taking advantage of the opportunities in front of us. When it gets to this stage, it's time to look at ways to address the fear of failure. It's not unreasonable to want to avoid failure. After all, failure can have negative consequences that affect our lives and other people too. And more personally, failure can make us experience really uncomfortable feelings, from disappointment, frustration, regret, and probably worst of all, shame. So it's not surprising that a lot of us have a fear of experiencing all of these feelings associated with failure. Failure can also make us feel bad about who we are and make us feel like we're letting everyone down. If you think the fear of failure might be holding you back, here are some behavior and thinking patterns to look out for. Avoidance. You might find yourself avoiding facing problems. This can be through using distractions or procrastinating or giving up completely, either before you even start or after you've started, but when things get hard. You might also struggle to motivate yourself to try anything new or to challenge yourself to do the difficult things. Another thing to look out for is indecisiveness. You might keep switching between two options back and forth and never choosing a course to follow. Or you might fail to follow through on the decisions and commitments you've already made. And another thing to look out for is feeling helpless, powerless, or trapped. It might feel as though no matter which option you take, you just can't win. Whatever your skill level, whatever experience you already have or resources you have at hand, it just feels as though you're bound to fail. If you experience any of these, it can be a sign that you're dealing with the fear of failure. And another thing that you might experience if you struggle with fear of failure is worrying about other people. For example, you might be worried about what other people expect from you and what might happen if you let them down. Maybe they'll lose respect for you, or maybe they'll think less of you. Or you might be worried that people will lose interest in you and catch you out if you fail. So it's really important when dealing with the fear of failure to not focus too much on how other people perceive you. And we'll be looking further on in the video at some of the healthier things that we can focus on. One of the biggest issues when dealing with the fear of failure is this idea of shame. Whether you've experienced real shame from past failures, or you're terrified of experiencing shame or being embarrassed, humiliated in the future, the fear of shame plays a huge role. So it's really important, again, to focus on more positive things when you're when you are working on your goals. So if you look back at your childhood, you can probably remember a time when you weren't afraid of failure. So where did this fear of failure come from? Well, everyone is different, but some of the causes of failure of the fear of failure are experiences of harsh criticism when we were younger. The pressure of high expectations from our family or people who were around us who had the best intentions for us can affect how we look at failure. And unfortunately, our perspective on what it means to fail can also make us struggle with the fear of failure. But that's also a good thing, because if we can change our perspective on what it means to fail, then we can address the fear of failure and make sure it doesn't stop us from going after our goals. Another cause of the fear of failure are past experiences with failure. if you've been through a really difficult situation where you failed and everything went wrong, then you might be reluctant to put yourself out there and experience the same kind of failure again in the future. The good news is the fear of failure is something you can work on and improve on over time. As we've mentioned before, it's a big part of it is adjusting your perspective and the way you think about failure. So here are 4 steps you can take today to help you overcome the fear of failure. So step number 1, look into getting clarity. A good place to start is getting some clarity on what it is you're really afraid of. Behind the fear of failure, you'll typically find a fear of the unknown. Writing things down or talking them out with someone can help you see gaps or unknowns that you need to look into. Thinking ahead can also help you see some of the challenges that could lead to failure and what you could do to prevent them or deal with them if they happen. So in doing so, you reduce the likelihood of failure and you see that there's really not so much to be afraid of. Clarity is really important because it can also highlight genuine risks and concerns that we should be aware of, while at the same time helping us to see when we are worried about unrealistic risks that are unlikely to happen. Step number 2 is to change what you focus on. Sometimes the fear of failure comes from focusing on all the things that are out of our control, which leaves us feeling helpless. On the other hand, if we focus on all the things we can change, we feel more empowered. So here are 2 key things that are really helpful to focus on. Number 1 is focusing on learning. Think of failure as an opportunity to learn and grow. It helps us learn things about ourselves and our goals, as well as our approach and all the aspects of our approach that we need to change. Maybe we need to be doing things differently. And all of this can come out of failure. If we can look into why we failed in the first place, we can learn a lot about what we should be doing differently. The other thing too that's useful to focus on is focusing on doing our best with what's in front of us. Breaking down those big, scary goals and simply focusing on the steps you need to take right now to move forward can be really, really helpful when addressing the fear of failure. And the good thing is, if you consistently focus on doing your best and making small improvements at each step, you'll get good results in the end. So step number 3 to overcoming the fear of failure is be kind to yourself. When you feel the fear of failure rearing its ugly head, remind yourself that it's perfectly normal to have these feelings. Don't be too hard on yourself if you've experienced past failures. Own those failures, learn from them, forgive yourself for messing up if you have to, but ultimately keep your focus on moving forward. Don't let past failures hold you back. And finally, step number 4 is change the way you look at failure. Remember that plenty of people who found success experienced major failures and setbacks in their lives. And some people even found success because or through the failures that they experienced. So failure can be a gift. Remember that failure can be a gift that gives us insights about ourselves and our approach that we couldn't get in any other way. If you always play it safe and never fail, there's a lot that you don't get to learn, and you miss out on plenty of opportunities to grow and move forward. So remember, no matter how many times you fail, try again, learn from those past failures, and focus on doing your best. So just to wrap things up, the fear of failure can really hold us back and keep us from pursuing the lives that will make us fulfilled. But if we can make some changes to the way we think about failure and the way we deal with the fear of failure, we can start to see failure as a learning tool that can help us grow and help us move forward with our lives and pursue our goals successfully. Thank you so much for watching this video, and hopefully you found it useful and you'll try some of the suggestions that we've shared. Feel free to add any of your own tips that have worked for you, and remember to like or leave a comment if you found this video helpful.